Welcome to the International Code Council Region 1 and Region 1 radio show. My name is Tim Spears. I'm the host of Region 1 Radio. Region 1 was established in 2014, and we're made up of 3 states, California, Nevada, and Hawaii. That also includes 32 ICC chapters. We're dedicated to excellence in education and engagement to promote a safer environment by bringing individuals together. These videos and podcast series were designed to highlight experience of those individuals and chapters that make up our region and share their experiences. If you enjoy the show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to our YouTube channel. In this episode, we spoke with Madison Dominescy. She is the director of the Safety 2.0 program with the International Code Council. In this episode, we talked about Building Safety Month and the many programs that the International Code Council offers. Links to the items that we spoke about during our discussion can be found in our show notes. Hey, Maddie, welcome to ICC Region 1 Radio. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, we just were talking a bit about the time difference. So it's a little later in the afternoon where you're at versus where I'm at. So thanks for joining us for an episode. We are in the second week of May, and May happens to represent Building Safety Week. And so with that being said, we've got a lot to talk about, especially about the Safety 2.0 program. I'm really excited to talk about that and at least be able to highlight some of the efforts that ICC is doing as part of Building Safety Week and some of those resources that building officials and fire code officials and really just code professionals in general can take advantage of. So,
for sure. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Well, before we begin, let's talk a little bit about your background. You're now working with ICC as the director of the Safety 2.0 program, but can you share a little bit about your background and how you got started or started working with ICC and started in the profession?
For sure. So I was fresh out of college. I guess my first official job was at a local law firm, and so I worked there throughout college. And then I knew I wanted to do something different once I graduated. And so I honestly was just looking for a job. My parents were like, all right, it's time. And so I started as an administrative assistant for membership.
Okay.
So I was working with Carla Higgs, vice president of membership. And I slowly, since then, I've kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything at ICC, to be completely honest. I have done like the administrative assistant role. I have also worked in project management with a lot of different teams internally. I still do some of that. And then I actually started with the first... I'm trying not to get ahead of myself, but the first glimpse of Safety 2.0 was back in 2016. And so we came up with that with President Cash Olszewski. And so that's always been something that I have been interested in and something that I have helped work on. So it eventually led to me working as director of Safety 2.0 programs.
Okay.
After doing a lot of other things at ICC. So I have been here since I graduated from college, going on 8 years.
Oh, wow. And so you've been able to work in a lot of different programs, at least as it relates back to the, ICC and kind of see how that Safety 2.0 program maybe relates to other kind of initiatives through the Code Council. So, just based on your background. So, now one of the questions that I kind of want to start talking and start asking people is more about like morning routines. For me, I used to work out in the mornings, but now I try to do it during my lunch hour, just give me a little bit of stress relief. So I always want to, kind of people that are leaders in the profession, kind of, talk about like what their morning routine looks like and really how you balance work and how you balance your kind of personal life.
So the most important part of my morning routine is just getting a cup of coffee. I am not a morning person, so I have to have a cup of coffee to really get me going. But yeah, I would say I get ready for the day and then get a cup of coffee, and then immediately, now that we're doing a hybrid schedule at ICC now. And so when I'm at home, I get my cup of coffee and I'm ready, and then I just sit down and start working. When I'm going into the office, so I don't live far from the office. So it's similar. I usually get my coffee and then just take it with me and go to the office. So I really just jump right in. I think in a perfect world, I would have a better, more slower morning routine and wake up earlier, but that's not my reality most days. So,
well, I think some of us, myself included, sometimes mornings are very chaotic, right?
Yes.
And I'm kind of the same way as we're talking. I've got a cup of coffee in hand. I'm not really supposed to be drinking a lot of coffee, but I do. I kind of need it, right, to be able to. It makes me feel like I'm a little bit more, able to take on the world that day.
Yes, for sure.
And so it does definitely help. And, I know a lot of people will get up first thing in the morning. And what I mean by first thing in the morning, before daylight, right? Before the sun comes up, they're up at 4:00 in the morning, and they always talk about how they get that extra hour in the morning to be able to, try to get ahead. I was doing that. I still get up early, but now I try to get into the office a bit earlier, maybe to answer some emails and some voicemails, and at least kind of try to take on the day. So
yes, for sure. I have just never been, I'd say that I've gone through different seasons. I think it just depends on like what season of life you're in. So there have been times where I get up but I've never been a slow starter to the day, if that makes sense. I usually just jump right in, no matter what time I wake up. I just kind of dive right into whatever I need to get done. So yeah.
So then how do you then balance kind of, life and work? I mean, a lot of us, as you mentioned, working on a hybrid schedule, right? And, grabbing that first cup of coffee in the morning and then getting right to work. And some of us, and I talked to Sarah Yerkes in one of the earlier episodes, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, as being able to kind of balance, how we balance that. Because many of us will work into the early hours of the evening, and just because it's just easy, right? We've got computer available to us, and we're able to kind of just keep going. So what do you do to create that balance?
That's a good question. So that has been a struggle for me throughout my career, is finding a good work-life balance. I will say that during the pandemic, I feel like a lot of people were forced to figure that out. So I think that helped me kind of establish things. I think there are certain things that I know are important to me, and I'm not going to give those things up, if that makes sense.
Right. Yep.
And if that is when I will, because I know that they're important and I have realized how important they are, I will always make time for them. So getting outside at some point during the day is important for me, whether that is going for a walk or whether that's just sitting outside for a little while. That is something that I know I need. And so I'm going to make time for it. Or if it's seeing friends a couple times a week or seeing my family, there are just things that I kind of figured out what gives me energy and what adds value to me personally. And those are things that I'm always going to prioritize while also maintaining work. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, a lot of us have kind of grown accustomed to working in offices with fluorescent lighting and being able to get outside and see some daylight, see some sunshine, and kind of recharge. I always think about the movie Superman, where I think he recharges with the sunlight or something like that. Yes. I always kind of feel like I do feel a lot better after I get up from my desk and do that. kind of take a little bit of a breather. And for me, I know meditation always helps. I do a lot of the guided meditation. There's a lot of different apps. I, use the Headspace app, but I know a lot of folks will do that. And that seems to be of great benefit for me, at least.
Yes.
Spending 5 to 10 minutes a day, just in a little bit of mindfulness practice, but also working out. I should probably do it more than I have been doing it, but we'll definitely, we always try to do a little bit better than what we are. So.
Yeah, so I actually did pick up yoga in January. So that was my one of my New Year's resolutions, the only one I've actually stuck to. And it's right down the street from my house. And so that is certainly something that has worked into my weekly routine. So I go 2 or 3 times a week. And those are things that, obviously there are exceptions, but that's not something that's a time I'm not going to compromise. Because like you said, it's just really valuable to kind of have that mindfulness time or meditation time. So I think
I guess my follow-up question would be what is it about yoga that you like the most? I like the aspect of being able to work out with other people, be able to, I don't know. It's a stress relief for me. So. Yeah.
So I think that it is, for me, I like the group setting, first of all. The only kind of workout classes or even yoga classes or whatever it is are only successful when I am in a group setting and also when it's not in my house. I'm not good at committing if it's something that I have to kind of initiate on my phone or whatever it is. But if if something's on my calendar and it's scheduled, I think it actually motivates me to get out of the house. And it's something that I don't have to think about, I don't have to make any decisions. I don't have to decide what what stretches we're doing or what meditations that we're going to talk about. That is completely in their hands. And so I think for me, it's kind of a letting go of control a little bit. And going somewhere where they're going to speak peace and, and have some time for meditation. And they I like that it's guided and that they have a topic that they want to, you never know what you're walking into. And so I think that's my favorite part about it.
Yeah, that sounds like that's one thing I haven't done is yoga. But I do some type of stretching routine. I think I use Ramwad every once in a while. It's kind of similar, but they don't necessarily go through the long held poses of yoga where you're sitting there and you're just quivering because you're in this long held position. I've done it once or twice. I know that there's great value in it, and as I've gotten older, I probably really should be doing it more than what I do. So I'm sure my joints, my knees, my hips, my back would probably thank me for it if I did it more frequently.
And it does help with all of that. So that's the other major benefit is that it just helps release tension and helps with anything else going on.
Yeah, nope, 100% agree. Well, so I think that that's always good, and I think it's good, especially for people in our profession. Sometimes life gets stressful, right? And so we've got to find those outlets to be able to help us be able to move forward. So one of the things that I struggle sometimes with is just being able to find time to, for professional development, and being able to try to find things to, continue to learn new skills and do different things. So, how do you continue to learn, stay on top of things within your role as the director of Safety 2.0?
That's a great question. For my position specifically, I think that the thing that is most helpful to me is to be curious. And so when I hear somebody say something that I either don't know what it is or don't know a lot about it, I kind of take that as my responsibility to figure it out. So our members are obviously so knowledgeable. A lot of them are if we're talking about the military program, a lot of them are military veterans, or a lot of our members have on their own tried to get involved in schools and get building code education implemented into different school settings or program settings. So I learn a lot from the people I speak to. And then when I'm speaking to them, I always try to take it that's the next step further and actually do research on it and figure out how, is there a way that ICC can support whatever they have shared with me? Is there a way to promote whatever they've shared with me? There's just a lot of different aspects to that. For example, this week someone put us in touch with the city of Norfolk, Virginia, who is actually implementing this incredible program where they have successfully hired several veterans and military spouses into their building department.
Oh, wow.
Which is great.
Yeah.
But then figuring out how they did that, who we can we promote this to other jurisdictions in the state of Virginia? Is this something that is actually available at a national level, or we could try to make work at a national level? Right. I think that there's a lot of stories within our membership, and then taking those stories and learning from them, and then figuring out how to replicate those experiences in different situations.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of one of the reasons why we started this podcast, is to be able, out of natural curiosity, being able to talk to other people, see how they're doing things. And one of the topics that I have gone through was some of the code development side of things. Talking with people like Trong Nguyen out of Long Beach and their efforts with the LA Basin chapter, and also talking to Kevin McOsker, Fire Chief Mike O'Brien out of Brighton, Michigan, or the Brighton Area Fire Authority, and talking with those folks on that, and talking about how you develop that consensus on the code development side of things, and see how maybe others can also implement those same things. And so those are all things, and all, I guess for me, since I host it, I ask the questions out of that natural curiosity, trying to find hey, is this something that I can implement? One person I talked to was Greg Rogers out of Spokane Valley. He's very big into community risk reduction, or at least his department is very community risk reduction centered, and they do a lot of things. And he talked about virtual reality and using virtual reality to help with fire extinguisher training and some different things, and some of the things that they developed. And and you talk about being able to use some of these programs across the country. That's one of them that I was I wonder if I could, then implement something like that. And I think most of us, that's what we try to do, right? We hear about something, and then we try to find the details associated with it. Yeah,
that's very interesting. But I think that you can learn, because our membership is spread out over so many different states. Internationally, but even just in the United States, you're talking about states that are very different from each other and have different, geographical detail. There's so many differences. So there's such a likelihood that somebody is doing something somewhere else that would be very valuable where you are as well. So I love that that's something that I get to witness firsthand a lot of times, because I am interacting with people from all over. So sometimes I get to make the connection, and that's probably one of my favorite things, is when I talk to someone and then I can tell them, oh, you should talk to this person who's several states away from you, but they can help you do what you're trying to do, or at least give you some experience to go off of.
So I guess that would be a follow-up question that I have is, as you talk about connections and developing those connections, how do you maintain those connections, kind of throughout, in the sense that I think LinkedIn is okay as a social media program, but I don't really think that it gives us a good opportunity to maintain a high level of connection. So how do you work to continue to develop that relationship with others across the country?
So I will actually go back to some of my background, which I think it was very helpful for me to start in membership, honestly. So I started, I would answer phones sometimes. I also went to a lot of events. So I really jumped into chapters, like just the relationship between ICC and ICC's chapters.
Mm-hmm.
So I have done a lot of traveling over the past, since I've been at ICC 7-8 years. And while I wouldn't say it's not like, once a week I call so-and-so, but meeting people in person makes a huge difference.
It does.
And, when I see them again, it's like, first of all, it establishes, when you meet someone in person, it establishes to me, a deeper relationship faster. So a lot of people, they have my number and they still call me or email me from having my number 7 years ago. So,
oh, wow.
I think that once you establish that connection, a lot of people will still start with you, even if it's not necessarily something that you're still doing, like that falls under you anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm a starting point for a lot of people because we made that connection in person, or even like we just had an ongoing connection because at that time they were starting their membership or whatever it was. So I think that establishing relationships in person is one element of it. And then continuing to make an effort to go to, it's hard to say this after 2 years of a pandemic, but like making an effort to go to in-person events, I think is important. Obviously that is impacted by circumstances beyond our control. But like going to conference every year is super helpful, and seeing people that because our conference moves around a lot. So different people come to conference different years, depending on where it is. So seeing those people at least once a year, and then getting to whatever other events I'm able to go to, and just staying involved in like the membership councils. If I can get on a membership council call, or if I have a question, I will just call. Like if I remember somebody who is connected to it, I will call them and just be like, we haven't talked in a couple of years, but I remember you were doing this, or we had a conversation about it. I'm pretty good at remembering conversations and people. And so I think that works in my favor too, as far as maintaining relationships. I think that helps me. A lot of times.
I agree with that, in the sense of being able to maintain at least a deeper connection, a deeper relationship, and meeting with people. One of the things that was, I took a class, and this was from Michael O'Brien. He taught this class at the California Fire Prevention Institute the last 2 years. Did it virtually last year, and then this year it was in person, but it was 2.0. And it was like, is email making you a bad boss? But for me, it's like, is email being able to, develop a connection? I think a lot of times what we have is we share a lot of emails. We do a lot of things electronically, but we don't actually able, for me, being able to pick up the phone, either make a phone call or a text message to somebody that I know. And like you said, that's like the first domino. They may not know, but they may know like somebody else to go to, and be able to then, help you down the path to find that answer that you're searching for.
So my dad and I were just having this conversation because, obviously there's a generational difference there. But he was talking about how he thinks it's just hard when certain teams are not in person. Like depending on, he's in a different industry than me, but he said in our industry, I just see it as some teams need to be in person. And so we were talking about, and I said, well, I really don't feel like I've lost anything being in a hybrid, work environment. But I also have those relationships that I had established from, traveling, and I just have those established relationships with a lot of people. And so I think it just makes a difference. It's super helpful for me to have that. Like I have coworkers all over the country, but to have met a lot of those staff members and, continue to build on those relationships over the years. I feel like because we have that established relationship we know what each other does. We know like who we need to talk to about what if we have an idea, like I have people that I can call if I have an idea that I need to bounce off of. I just think that, for maintaining relationships, when you have a strong foundation, I think you can make it work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I think that, having the ability to having the bond before the pandemic and then being able to continue to move it forward was good. I think that most of us were thrust into this position where now we're having to work more virtually. But I will say that being able to work virtually has definitely maybe benefited more people to be able to stay more engaged. And, being able to have these types of virtual meeting platforms like what we're doing today, and being able to share information back and forth, I think that those are always good things to have and a good ability. And as you mentioned, I think there's a lot that we can take away from maybe other teams in other industries and be able to benefit from that. I will say that we struggled a bit, and I won't say struggled, but it was a challenge when we had to shut everything down and started sending people home and figure out how do we continue to provide a service, during these times where we're used to being able to see everybody every day, ask questions, and really be able to provide a little bit more mentorship to people. And I think we all did pretty well with it. We were very resilient.
For sure.
But now you mentioned being able to find, like we talked about earlier, finding that domino, being able to find that first person to go down to the next person. And that was actually how you and I started this conversation, right? I sent Susan Dowdy a message and I said, hey, I'd like to talk about building safety and Building Safety Month. And she's like, well, you need to talk to Maddie. And so then she put me in contact with you. And that's kind of how I got your information. So I will thank Susan, and I'm sure she's going to listen back. And but I do thank her because she has been quite the person that I can go to should I have any questions or should I need some more information. She's always been a very reliable person for us.
For sure. She's great.
She's very great.
I love Susan.
Yeah.
Talk about, I think that's one of the there are so many relationships. Like Susan is a great example of one that I spent a lot of time in California for a couple, like early on, and that relationship was a great result of that. So she's great.
Yeah. Yep. She's fantastic. So like I said, we're in the second week of Building Safety Month. This is, this week this week it's more on, and I'm going to look, I've got it actually up on my computer here, exploring careers in building safety. And so as we talk about exploring careers in building safety, and as you mentioned earlier, the aspect of like Norfolk, Virginia, hiring, what did you say, 7, military veterans within their building department. What do you see as some of the biggest challenges to those maybe exploring careers in building safety? And kind of and as we talk about that, how is ICC helping to kind of tackle those challenges?
So one of the biggest challenges I find when I am talking to someone brand new to the industry is there's a sense of being overwhelmed because there are so many different options.
Right.
I think that somebody brand new doesn't know what certification they want to get necessarily, or what certification they want to start with. They don't know which training they want to start with. They also just want to learn about all the career options. So I think one of our main focuses has been trying to streamline that and try to make it easier for somebody coming in brand new to figure out where they can start with training. And for example, the technical training program is based on the IRC. So the natural certification to come from that starting point is the B1. And so I think we have tried, it's kind of panned out naturally of where to start. But when we're talking about, a veteran coming in who may not be starting with the technical training program, we're trying to give them some clear paths step by step of what they can do to get started.
Okay.
There's always going to be an element of kind of exploration and figuring out what interests you personally.
Right.
But I think we've tried to develop, there's an infographic on we updated a lot of resources in the past 12 to 18 months when we refreshed the Safety 2.0 website. And with that, we added some resources like step-by-steps, like what's the first step of getting into the industry, which is really an exploration phase, with some specific links where you can learn about different, jobs. But yeah, it just breaks it down. And so I think trying to address that and give some clear avenues to funding if you are a veteran, even funding if you're a school interested in getting building codes into your curriculum. I think you just have to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
For someone who's not familiar with building safety.
Well, and like you mentioned, there are so many different career paths, right? We have, building officials, we have fire code officials, we have code enforcement officials, permit techs. I mean, we definitely span, it's a very diverse kind of career path that we can definitely all explore. And I've had permit techs that say, I'm very happy being a permit tech. I don't want to be a plans examiner, and I've had some fire code inspectors like, hey, I want to be a fire marshal. So how do I get there? And, and I'm sure the same is, and I relate more to the fire code side of things being a fire marshal, but I'm sure that there's that same desire on maybe for building inspectors to maybe progress to be able to be a building official. And how do we do that? But really, I can think back when I first started my career, the only thing I knew about being a fire marshal or a fire inspector is what I saw on TV and what I saw, I think I might be a little bit older than you, but the In Living Color sketch with Jim Carrey and the fire marshal, I think it was Fire Marshal Bill character. And it was more of a parody of being a fire marshal than it was truly, actually doing the job. And so that was all I really knew of it. And obviously, I've grown to understand that there's a little bit more to it than a parody of what we do. But so to that point, I think one of the other not problems, but an area that we are trying to work on is just awareness. Because when your only awareness is HGTV, where like the building inspector is shutting people down, or a sketch off SNL where the fire, when those are your points of like awareness on an industry, I think that's where we've been trying to improve awareness of what is building safety, what are building codes, and what careers connect to those areas. Yeah.
And so we've done a few different things. So we created some resources called The Value of the Code Official, because people were requesting kind of materials to promote themselves, even within their cities, to the, to anyone who is not aware of what a code official might do or what their value is. So whether it's a city council meeting or whether you take it to schools, elementary schools, when you learn about police officers, you always have a police officer come or a firefighter. I think that there is a desire there, from our membership to be able to promote themselves, in a lot of different environments. So I think that we have tried to provide some resources, even Building Safety Month. If you go to the Building Safety Month website, there's some resources that you can use to promote yourself, whether it's, where you work, or if you want to go to a school or wherever you're trying to promote yourself, or explain your job or your role. I think there are a lot of resources that ICC has created over the past several years.
Well, and you mentioned being able to promote, I don't want to say yourself, but also kind of what you do in the sense because a lot of what we do is, it's hard to quantify sometimes.
Yes.
When we're doing what we need to do, we're not having maybe things are going smoothly, right? We're not having problems with buildings. We're not having fire issues and those types of things. So sometimes it's a little hard to quantify. And so I always try to talk to folks about that. Like, hey, we're not really, there's a reason why we don't see, some of these larger events or catastrophes is because of the work that building safety professionals do every day. And there's a reason that we do what we do. So, but
definitely. Yes. There was a video, and I think people just use the term a lot, but there was a video several years ago that I've seen, kind of referring to people in our industry as the silent heroes. Mm-hmm. And so I think that is definitely part of it, is because you don't see them in action necessarily, because their action is preventative or proactive. Mm-hmm. And so you're not seeing those actions a lot. Unless you are building a building, or, unless you are in that environment. So yeah, I think that's the tricky part of, awareness for building safety.
I definitely agree with that. So as we've talked a bit about the, safety 2.0, but as we recruit a new generation of, into the building safety career, and I really think that that's essential for us as we move forward, right? Many of us, we're getting a little bit older as a profession. And so I do think that we need to start recruiting some. And I've been trying to talk my 18 or almost 19-year-old son into the profession. He doesn't quite necessarily see it as I do. So maybe someday I can get him to, explore a profession as a building inspector or a fire inspector. I've definitely been pushing that. But can you discuss a little bit more about the Safety 2.0 initiative? We've talked a bit about it, but how it was launched and what are some of the larger programs associated with it?
I would love to. So it was started, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but it was started with when President Cash Olszewski was in office, and that was part of his slogan for 2000. I think it was 2016. But it was building the next generation in building safety. The slogan was better, more eloquent than that, but that's the idea. And so one of the programs that he initiated was the Board Shadow Program. Mm-hmm. So the Board Shadow Program allows the board to select people who are new to the industry to shadow them at the annual conference at the expense of the International Code Council. And it also led to the creation of the Emerging Leaders Membership Council. So after you've participated in the Board Shadow Program, you become a member of the ELMC. And that group has been so incredible to watch just from the first year of the Shadow Program and then how far it's come since then. And every year, the Board Shadow Program is it's always a great group. And they always end up very engaged in the industry. So far, it has just been a very cool experience. So those are the two newer programs, I would say, part of Safety 2.0. The technical training program, I guess, would technically be the first thing that was established pre the term Safety 2.0. So the technical training program and the military program were established, I believe, in 2008, 2009. And Jim Elwood ran the technical training program. It started as a high school program, and it was pretty concentrated in Virginia. But since then, it has expanded a lot, and we have schools all over the country. But those are the four biggest programs under Safety 2.0, I would say, are the Military Family Program, the Technical Training Program, Board Shadow Program, and then the ELMC is kind of part of Safety 2.0, but it really is it's a membership council that's a natural landing place after the Board Shadow Program.
Okay.
Oh, and the Mentor Program, which is the most recent addition. So I think we can talk about that more in a little bit, but that was started 3 or 4 years ago. Really, there was a lot of demand for ICC to partner people with somebody in their area. So people new to the industry, they're looking to be connected to someone in their area, or at the very least in the area that they're interested in pursuing, to kind of have more of a one-on-one connection throughout that process.
Yeah, actually, I want to talk a bit about both the technical training program and the mentorship program, because I do think that both are extremely valuable. One of the things that I really think that there is a lot of value to the technical training program, and I think that for any code official wanting to hopefully try to pair or work with some of the educational institutions in your area, I think it is definitely something to explore. So can you describe that program a little bit more in detail, in the sense of how, as a code professional and maybe a school, how can you get more involved in the program? Kind of what's the pathway through that program, and really the overall mission? Because I do think that being able to bring it maybe to a local high school, as kids maybe don't want to pursue like a trade school or a 4-year institution, or even a or like a 2-year junior college, being able to maybe benefit that way as well.
Yeah, so the program is based on the IRC. So we, right now, we are running on the 2018 IRC, which is the International Residential Code. And we have broken that up into 6 disciplines. And so I think that allows the program to be relatively flexible in how you implement it. So when I am talking to a school about a program, a lot of times people will express that, they already have their curriculum laid out, or they don't have a lot of time in the school year, so they might not be able to dedicate an entire class to teach the technical training program. So you can also take pieces of the technical training program and integrate it into a class that you already have.
Okay.
So most schools have, or I say most, a lot of schools have some sort of construction class or construction option in their school. They call it a CTE program. So a lot of times they will already have a class where they're teaching elements of construction, and it's pretty easy to integrate, even just the building chapters of the IRC. So when you're talking about floors and walls and foundations, things like that, it's pretty easy to integrate that into what you're already teaching. Okay. So the goal would just be exposure, honestly. So even if you cannot cover the entirety of the IRC, you're still exposing your students to building codes, the building code or the building safety process, and making sure they are getting a well-rounded exposure to the construction process as a whole. So the process to actually join the program is relatively simple. There's a $150 fee per school, and then it's $25 per student. Okay. One of the newest elements that we've launched in the past few months is, obviously during the pandemic, there was more of a demand for virtual learning. So previously the program was all paper, pencil, basically. Okay. And now we have a technical training program online portal. And so you can actually access the IRC and the study companion. It's separated out into section. And so you can have those side by side as you're going through the material. The instructors can host their exams online. There's additional resources. We've created extra videos to use as you're teaching the material. So we have tried to expand and adjust the program as needed,
right.
Just based on the past few years.
Okay. Now, I being in the fire profession, we don't necessarily we work with the IRC, but primarily our focus is the California Fire Code or the International Fire Code. It's obviously an addition of the IFC. But has there been any thoughts to maybe expanding from the IRC into maybe the IFC? For me personally, like I would like to be able to create like an intern program and then be able to bring people in and then train them, like lack of a better term, an academy, to understand those types of things. So when I began my career, I was an Iowa Deputy State Fire Marshal, and they really emphasized a lot of training. And I took a lot of IFC classes or a lot of ICC classes. We actually brought in instructors, and I got to learn from a lot of different ICC instructors, which was great. And that really helped me solidify my understanding of what the different code requirements, but also the intent of the code requirements. And I kind of like to do the same thing in my current department and trying to identify ways. So is there thoughts to maybe expanding into those areas, and then also maybe doing the technical training program as part of a training program within your own departments?
Yes, it's crazy that you say that, because I feel like anyway, yes, there is thoughts of that, because we've actually had people contact us where they've seen a demo of the online portal and people have said the same thing you have. Well, I'd really like to be able to, because the nice thing about the technical training program online portal right now is that we can give the instructor some ownership to where, if you're in a different state, or if you do have specific content that you want people to learn, you can add that in, or you can kind of adjust it based on what you are wanting whoever your student is, whatever you are wanting them to see or focus on, you can kind of adjust and add to that. Or even, if you don't want them, like if something's not relevant to you or like your area, you can also kind of hide that. So there's a lot of flexibility on the portal. And the other element of that is expanding, because obviously the IRC is not the only code in demand for something like this. So that's on the horizon. I think we plan to start with the IBC. But the goal would be to expand to other codes, including the IFC. So I think that there is a lot of potential here. And even if it is, internally figuring out how to do that, beyond if it is a technical training program, or if it's kind of beyond that and an element of education and training. So I think that that's something that we are trying to figure out, timeline and how what that could look like in the future.
Yeah, I think that there is that demand, like you mentioned, going into the IBC. I think that is a good direction, because I do think that there are elements that are important to fire code officials as well.
Yes.
And I think that we could benefit from that. And then it sounds like it's going to be a tiered approach, in a sense that you've started with IRC, go to the IBC, and then maybe some of the other codes. Maybe hopefully eventually the IFC. I think that I will be, if you ever need any help, I would love to help out with that process, because I do. I mean, it's one of those things that I've seen, and I've worked with folks that they have a hunger to learn, but being able to put them in the direction. So there are professional development courses that we can all take. I talked to Chief Tanya Hoover with the National Fire Academy, and there's classes there. ICC also offers classes, and NFPA. There's just a lot of different classes, but I think to be able to you kind of focus on, starting at like the basics and being able to get you to that level of certification. I think it would be of great value for many code professionals as they're looking to start their career, because I think going in and being able to do an internship with an agency, that also helps, because it also gives them some experience in that process. And learning it from being able to see it through a video and pen and paper and a book, but then also then applying it. And how to apply it, I think, would be extremely beneficial. And having that, those two items or those two areas are definitely a great thing. So it sounds like you guys were already ahead of it. I just happened to maybe,
Yeah, it's just, I think it just shows that there's a need, because, I mean, we've been talking about this with people in other parts of the country. So I think it just shows that there's definitely a need there.
Yeah, I think that you guys, ICC, being kind of on the leading edge of developing the first program and then being able to go from there, I think we're starting to see that. So then I think one great idea then maybe will spawn another great idea. And then it just kind of keeps going that way.
That's the hope.
So, yeah. Well, we talked about the technical training piece, but I do want to talk a little bit about the mentorship aspect of things. I do think that mentorship is key to what we do. And I always call my phone a friend. The people that I can pick up the phone, I can call and ask them a question because they're very experienced in the field, and they can help provide me with some guidance. Because I'll be honest, there are things that are very unique that we may not run into every day, and so being able to have that mentor to be able to reach out to. So, what tools does ICC offer in that form of that mentorship program?
Yes, so we just call it the mentor program, but there's a find a mentor element and then a become a mentor element. So I'm sure you have experienced this. There's a lot of people within our membership who, most people I've talked to are very passionate about mentorship. Mm-hmm. And everyone, I feel like that's a pretty common thread for everyone, is somebody has been there along the way throughout their process, throughout their career. And so I think, but occasionally we run across people who don't necessarily have that. Maybe they're a one-person show, or maybe they just have not found somebody to serve as their mentor. So they can submit a request to find a mentor, and then we have several people who have signed up. So we have kind of a database of people who are willing to serve as mentors. Okay. And then our our government relations representatives tend to make that connection. So if we don't have someone in their area, a lot of times our government relations representative will know somebody. So we've talked about Susan. Susan's a great example of this. I mean, she's had a lot of success stories in her states she talks to the person looking for a mentor, and then she has made some great connections with people that she knows within our membership, or who are active in chapters. It's just, I feel like that is the most valuable way to really embrace and bring someone into the industry. When you have that relationship, there's somebody to, like you said, phone a friend. There's somebody to call when you're having an issue and you've either never run into it before, or you need some advice on how to handle a specific scenario. I just think that is one of the best ways to also just move forward in your career. Even maybe you didn't know about a different opportunity, or a different area you could be focused on. I think it's just so valuable to have connections in a lot of different areas and have mentors in your field.
Yeah, and that's good to know, for those that may be listening, that the program exists, and, your government relations folks, your area government relations, personnel with ICC can help with that, because I know Susan in our area, she is very active with all the chapters. Yes. She attends, like, I'm a part of the California Fire Chiefs Association, Northern California Fire Prevention Officers, which is a mouthful, but I'm part of that chapter, and I know she attends our meetings, but then she also attends all the other meetings that are throughout the state of California. I don't know if she's gone to Hawaii. I'm sure she probably would like to. I think I would too. But like Nevada as well.
Yes.
So this being Region 1 and Region 1 Radio, I mean, she is very active and a very somebody that could definitely help because she knows these people and she talks to them very frequently. And so being able to make that pairing.
Yes.
So
we have our government relations team as a whole is just a great group, and that's how it functions pretty much across the country. So no matter where you are, you have a representative who can definitely make a connection if you are looking for a mentor, or even if you're looking for a chapter, like maybe you haven't found a local chapter to be a part of. They're always there to make that recommendation or make that connection if you need that.
So I guess then a follow-up question would be is how, because this is definitely not just for Region 1, but for everybody else to listen to. And if you're listening to this maybe on the East Coast or in the middle of the country, how can they find information of maybe who their government relations, person is within their given area?
That's a great question. So we have a map actually on the ICC website. So if you go to iccsafe.org, there is a Find My Chapter area.
Okay.
I believe under, I can provide the link just to, but there is a map, and it will tell you who your board liaison is for your state and who your government relations contact is. But if you're not sure, you can contact me, or you can contact Carla Higgs, and we can definitely provide you with that information no matter where you are.
And what I'll do is I'll link to that in the comments, either as part of the episode notes. So if you want to link to that and you want to be able to see who that person is, I'll also link to the Safety 2.0 program. So if you want some more information on the 2.0 program, the mentorship program, all of those things that we've talked about today, the technical training program being another one, I'll link to all of those so that way if people want some more information, they can find it there. And that will give everybody a good opportunity to kind of maybe start exploring some of these other things and some of these other things that they may not be aware of that were available to them, like tools and things like that. I think are always beneficial, and being able to talk to you today, I think that will definitely help maybe expand, and hopefully we can get more people that can also take part in some of these programs as well. So
love that. Yes.
Now, one of the I've only got a couple more questions. A lot of times I ask how you engage with ICC, but I think that's already kind of been established. Yes. But what advice would you give to somebody that is maybe wanting to pursue a career in building safety and code enforcement?
I would say that, first of all, I know that not everyone is inclined, but talk to a lot of different people. I would try to expose yourself to a lot of different people who do a lot of different jobs, just to get a better idea of what those actually look like in real life and what would be most of interest for you and what would best fit what you want. The other thing I would suggest is just reaching out to, a lot of people. I have talked to people who are building officials who got their job or got started by simply cold calling their local building department and just asking, "Hey, I'm interested. Is there anything I can do, or is there any way I can get experience with you?" Yeah. I think it would surprise a lot of people how many building departments would be willing to bring you in, or at least talk to you. A building official would definitely be willing to talk to you about the potential of a career in building safety. Yeah. So to me, it would just be to make connections. Yeah.
Yep. I agree. In the fire service, we firefighter or people that are exploring careers as being a firefighter, they do what's called ride-alongs. I would think that would be a great benefit to anybody that wants to pursue a career as a building safety professional. You can also do, I would imagine that many of us would support that as well, so you can get some more experience. But also too, in those that are exploring the career, we can definitely talk, help to answer any questions that you may have.
Yes.
And that this podcast and the ICC Safe podcast, it's the Pulse podcast, right? Did I get the name right?
Yes, that's right.
You can find more information through these avenues as well, and be able to learn kind of what the building safety profession, different avenues and different things about the building safety profession. So, but yes, I do think that that's a great idea. Like you said, we've talked about it earlier, and now as we start to wrap up this episode, talking about the importance of connections and developing those connections and understanding that that's kind of what we need to do to be able to maybe, start pursuing a career in building safety.
Yeah, I think the fact that everyone does something slightly different. So, our membership is made up of a lot of different types of people and a lot of different people who are in different careers. So, we have state fire marshals, or we have architects, we have engineers, we have builders, we have, it really is there's just so many options and so many opportunities. So I think capitalizing on the fact that you have access to so many different people who have different experiences doing different things is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we start to wrap up this episode, I do have one formal question left, but what excites you about the future? Being somebody that's the director of the 2.0 program, the Safety 2.0 program, what excites you about the future?
I think that the thing that's most exciting to me is that there are always new ideas coming in, and there are always new ways to do things. So I think we've learned a lot about that in the past couple of years, but I think that that's an opportunity in the future as well. New people in the industry brings new ideas, brings new ways to do things, new methodology, there's even new materials used to build, there's just so many different things that things are always changing. And I really enjoy that. I enjoy that things that I can always, every single day I can come to work and think of new ways to do things and think about, how to address, the world that's changing around us, constantly. So I think it's just the opportunity to continue to improve and keep up with everything that continues to evolve.
All right. And so how can, everybody that's been listening, how can they find out more information about all the different things that we talked about? We talked about the ICC Safe website, but how else can they find additional information about the different programs and things that we talked about today and stay informed?
Yes. So we do probably at least every couple of months, we have some sort of webinar on a different aspect, whether it's a mentorship. We've done some speed networking sessions. So we do have that, and we have different technical training program webinars about, how to join or people's experiences with that. Most recently, this week, we had a webinar about the Military Families Program and opportunities for veterans and military spouses in building safety. So I would say just staying aware of when we host those. And if you're interested in participating in one of those, feel free to reach out. And then I would say sign up to be a mentor, or find a mentor. We are always looking for people who are willing to invest in new people in the industry. So whether you are interested in mentoring, or if you are interested specifically in the technical training program or the military family program, I would love to hear from you, and I would love to find a place for you to get involved. So if you're not looking at the website, you can join us on a webinar, or you can reach out to me directly. We always have articles in the BSJ highlighting member experiences, which I think, as I've said, are some of the most valuable content. So I think there are several different ways that you can stay plugged in. Even go into your local chapter meeting. I feel like the chapters are always doing something, even if it's not under one of the official Safety 2.0 programs. I feel like a lot of our chapters are always trying to think ahead of the next generation and be actively involved in their communities to pursue that. So.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, Maddie. Well, that does bring our episode to a close. And I do want to thank you again for joining us for this episode of ICC Region 1 Radio. I do think that there is a lot of benefit to kind of different things that we talked about today. And I hope that, the people that have listened to this can also find great value in some of these different programs and also engage in some of these programs. I think that those are also good options. And so, but if you have any more questions or, and you want to reach out to ICC, they're there. They get back to you, anywhere from government relations to Maddie. There's a lot of folks at the ICC, or International Code Council, that are available and always willing to talk to you. So, but with that, thank you again. If people listening like the show, please make sure to rate us on Apple Podcasts, and make sure to, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have a YouTube channel where we post these episodes along with some other things as well. So again, Maddie, is there anything else before we close out this episode?
No, just thank you, Tim, so much for having me. And I really look forward to hopefully meeting. I don't think we've ever met in person, so
I don't think so.
I look forward to meeting you in person one day.
Well, I will. I was in Pittsburgh. I might have missed you in Pittsburgh, but
yeah, I think we missed each other.
I will be there in Louisville, Kentucky this year,
Fantastic.
Right?
Yes, well, we'll have to meet there.
Yeah, so I've got to start. I have already got my hotel, I think, reserved. Now I just need to start looking at airfare. So, but I will be there. I think that that's one of the. I'm going to attend some of the code hearings as well, because I am involved in code development, like I mentioned earlier. So I do think that that's one of those things. So yes, we'll have to meet in person.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Thanks again, Maddie.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too. And